And now, our feature presentation.
Hello, welcome to part 2, episode 2 of the series that I'm tentatively calling Major Emotion Pictures, where I go through a series of films that mean a lot to friends and other film fans, and just have them choose it, have us talk about it. And yeah, today's guest is my buddy. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Jordan. Was a theater major at a university we don't name, yeah, I'm currently like every other actor, just awaiting for my industry to not die.
So, I before we mention the film that you pick, I want to give a little bit of backstory. So when I was first pitching this idea to people and asking, like, would you be willing to come on? Would you want to talk? What movie? You said, I want to talk about Uncut Gems. And I was like, oh yeah, would love to talk about Uncut Gems. Loved Uncut
Right.
Gems. I typically hate Adam Sandler movies. The only one I will give you that's like a comedy or like an Adam Sandler movie is Wedding Singer. But I was really excited, and especially after the last episode, Cameron's talking about Florida Project, A24 movie. Uncut Gems is another A24 movie. And I was like, oh, it's another A24, but that's fine. That's fine. Uncut Gems, it's fresh on people's minds. It's been a very interesting film to discuss. And then we were talking about when we would actually sit down and record this. And there were some scheduling conflicts, and you said, well, that's fine, because actually, I don't want to talk about Uncut Gems.
That's right.
You want to talk about
The Big Green.
The Big Green. So I have the web pages pulled up. I have the Disney Plus page.
Yeah, I got the Wikipedia up on my phone for reference.
Came out in 1995. It is a sports family comedy directed by Holly Sloan. As Disney Plus says, the description, the biggest game in the world comes to the smallest town in America in this comedy about a group of bored misfits who become local soccer heroes. Nothing ever happens in Elma, Texas, at least not until British schoolteacher Anna Montgomery, played by Olivia DeBow, arrives. Determined to motivate her students, Anna decides to form a soccer team. She enlists the aid of out-of-shape Sheriff Tom Palmer, who agrees to coach the team so he can beat his old nemesis, the ruthless coach of the big city bullies, the Knights. So, I can't wait to hear what you have to say about this movie, because I'll be honest. A lot of things that I read in reviews and a lot of things that you told me, and kind of what I got the gist of before I watched it was, oh, it's The Sandlot, but with soccer.
Right.
Which was already going to be an uphill battle for me personally, because I don't like The Sandlot. The Sandlot, The Goonies, that whole... I'm just not a fan of that era of 80s movies. Or Sandlot was 90s, wasn't it?
Yeah, Sandlot was
like mid 90s.
97, I think.
But like,
I don't know if it came out before or after Big Green, actually. I think before.
It definitely came out before
93.
because
Yeah, 93.
I have well, also just like that era of like Disney movies of like the Mighty Ducks and all this nugget of
well, The Sandlot wasn't even
sports
Disney.
movies.
The Sandlot was 20th Century Fox. Yeah. And which kind of which is kind of astonishing because like, you know, there are all those like Disney movies like, you know, Big Green and Mighty Ducks and stuff. And also Holly Goldberg Sloan also wrote this film. I just wanted to point out.
I'm curious because I didn't actually look. What else has she done? Let's see.
Yeah, so she wrote Angels in the Outfield.
She wrote Made in America, Angels in the Outfield. Whoa. She was the screenwriter for Steve Irwin's feature film for MGM, The Crocodile Hunter Collision Course.
Yeah, and she also wrote Secret Life of Girls.
I've not heard of Secret Life of Girls. There's a Crocodile Hunter movie?
Yeah, so she was the first woman to direct a live action film for Disney, which was Cinderella, which
she directed Cinderella
was like and so like I think part of the reason that like I really love this movie is well, let's see. All right, so I used to watch the movie all the time as a kid. You know, I had the VHS, and you know, it's one of my favorite movies. And I think that like because I watched it recently, you know, which is why I like changed my pick. And there was a lot that stuck out to me like today that I like would have noticed as a kid, but not really like comprehended in like importance.
It does have like a weird slapdash charm to it.
Yeah, so there's a big difference in this than there is in The Sandlot, and I think that the main difference is in The Sandlot, the kids, and I'm referencing specifically the first one. The second one is I don't know if you've seen the Sandlot sequels.
Sequels?
There's
plural?
Yeah, there's Sandlot 1, 2, and 3. 3 has a little time travel element. I'm not.
Why are we not talking about that?
It's not like time travel like time machine travel. It's like you get knocked out and you wake up as your younger self. Time travel. Yeah. But and The Sandlot 2 is literally the exact same plot as The Sandlot 1, just with different kids and in the 70s.
I can't imagine if it ain't broke.
Oh, it's broke. The second one's broke. But it's a lot of fun. But the main difference I find between like The Big Green and The Sandlot is that The Sandlot all the way through is like just the kids. And like it's just their problems. It doesn't really deal with their parents too much. I mean, the whole thing with Smalls like losing his stepdad's ball, I know it's like the driving point behind the movie. But there's no like his parents are gone mostly, and like you know his dad's away at work and his mom's not out there, you know, playing with the kids and stuff like that. But in The Big Green, the adults are a lot more fleshed out, and like the you know, like the kids' parents are like more involved in the story.
They're an actual like part of the story.
Yeah, and
just, like,
so there's
there's
a more grounded kind of element in this movie where because there's one point where like and I know that like
it's really
like
weird
now
to hear you describe this movie as grounded.
I know, but like especially like just really in comparison to like the other sports films, although I think the Mighty Ducks, the first one anyway, dealt with some interesting stuff. Oh, it does. I think D2 is the, in my opinion, the one where they play for the Olympics. That movie's amazing.
Now you know what's in my head. Do you remember that weird like superhero animated show they made based around the Mighty Ducks?
Yes, where they're like aliens. Weird. Yeah, that was crazy. It had nothing to do with anything. I don't know where it even came from.
I mean, that was in that era of Disney Channel cartoons of like, hey, let's make Baloo like an airline pilot who delivers mail and like duct tape. Like that was just in an era of just like, look,
Yeah, they were just
whatever.
like, let's just turn our characters into
Tailspin
whatever.
holds up. Tailspin holds up.
I don't know if you noticed, but two actors in the Big Green that are the kids are also actors in The Sandlot.
Oh yeah, there's the one. Oh, what is the kid? He's on the poster.
Yeah, the kid that's in the goalie. The goalie.
What's the kid's name? I have the Wikipedia pulled up.
I don't know. I can't remember.
Is it Evan?
Kids. Yeah. No. Okay, so no, Evan Schiff. He's the kid. Or Chauncey Leopardi is the actor's name. Yeah. He's the kid that played Squints in Sandlot, the one with the glasses.
The other kid, who
Larry, Patrick Renna. Yeah. He was Larry in the Big Green. So like both of them were. Yeah. So like both of them were in the Sandlot, and
he's apparently also in Boston Legal, and he's a Scientologist.
Cool. I think that he's done some acting as recently as like 2016 or something. Yeah. I don't know.
But like there is let me be perfectly honest with you. I didn't think it was a good movie, but there were quite a few moments that I found really interesting things happening, specifically with the characters. And I do want to preface by saying I am really happy that you picked a movie that we kind of don't see eye to eye on. Yeah, because
not only that, but like, I don't know. Once I picked Uncut Gems, I was like, well, I mean, everybody loves Uncut Gems, you know, like.
Not everybody.
I mean, not everybody, but like the general consensus is like objectively, that's a great movie.
Yeah,
you know.
The only Uncut Gems is one of two movies that I have in my time working box office had someone come out of during the movie and ask for a refund. I've had some people come out like after the movie, but it's one of two movies I've had people come out and ask for refunds for during the movie.
Why? Because it starts in Adam Sandler's asshole?
Well, no, because like so many people saw the poster and they were like, "Oh, Adam Sandler, yeah, let's go see that."
Oh,
and I was like, "You think you're getting the water boy, don't you?"
Yeah, like,
but it was that and Holmes and Watson were the only movies I had people ask for refunds for during the movie, which is really funny to me.
What other movie?
Holmes and Watson.
Oh, the Will Ferrell and
the one that Sony tried to sell to Netflix and Netflix went, nah.
Jeez.
But like one of the things I find the most interesting about Big Green is the fact that there's a lot of these kinds of movies where it's the kids who are like, I'm kind of awesome. I kind of believe in myself, and the adults kind of need to get turned around, or there's one kid that like really needs to like get turned around. Like The Sandlot's a perfect example where like all of them but that one kid kind of already feel like, yeah, we're hot shit. I'm the greatest kid in the
right.
But like Big Green, all those kids in that class are like, yeah, we're idiots. We know that. We know we're not really going to amount to much. And I was like, whoa, okay, guy.
And like there's one when they're like going off of the kids. I thought it was so funny like watching it like later where like the teacher's like going around being like, what's special about you? Or sorry, she's British. What's special about you? You know, and she's like going around the kids and so she like goes to the kid that plays Ham in The Sandlot, and she's like, you know, what's special in your life? And he's like, my dad has a job, and everybody in the class is like, oh shit, yeah, like that's big for this town. And then the twins, they're like, she's like, what's special about you? And they like simultaneously go, we have asthma, and they pull out their giant ass inhalers out of their desk and
it's weirdly cynical in some
respects.
It
really is.
Kids, and like there's a huge like the kind of depressing like immigration subplot.
So that was another thing I wanted to talk about. Yeah, so And then the girl, when the British lady to the girl, and she's like, what's special about you? And the girl's like,
My parents are divorced. Thanks for bringing it up.
and and everybody in the class thing goes, "Row, row, row." Shut up! It's so good.
That is like before we get to the more depressing angle and into more like spoilery territory. Spoilers for this.
Yeah, this 1995 film.
You do really get the sense of like they are friends. Like,
Yeah,
that's one of the things that, like, even if I don't like The Sandlot, I'll give you that. Like, in The Sandlot, you're like, you guys are friends. It's one of the reasons I kind of hate the Goonies, because every time I watch Goonies, I'm like, you all are assholes to each other. Why do you all like hang around each other? Why are you friends? Whereas in a movie like this, I'm like, I get it. Like, I get why you all stick together.
And because like that's the school, and it's in the beginning, like when the teacher gets there, the kids are like, yeah, there's two classes, little kids and big kids, and like, the hell does that mean? Like,
we got a class system in this high school.
Where does big kids end? Yeah, like where do big kids end? Is there no high school? Like, what the hell?
Yeah, wait, are they in middle school or high school? Do they establish that, or do they just say
I have no idea. They say big kids and little kids, and then they are the big kid class. Like that's it. That's like in the script. So like there's like a lot of
it doesn't even say like on Wikipedia like what they are in.
And I grew up in a really small town, not that small. We had a couple elementary schools, a couple middle schools, a couple high schools, at least like in the county. But it was like really easy for me to kind of relate to the movie because of all of like the small town elements that like I still could relate to. And just kind of how like this small town, there's really no world outside of it for anybody who lives here, and there's really like no, for a lot of them it feels like there's no getting out. And I think that's like a big feeling like throughout the whole movie. Now with the whole immigration subplot, I think this movie radicalized me when I was like 5, because like the thing is, the movie, I don't know, it handles it so much better than you would think a 1995 sports children's movie would, because like once it comes out that like his mom's an illegal immigrant, and like, but like he was born in America, so like there's like the whole like 10 minutes up in the air where like the sheriff's trying to find the mom because she dipped with the kid before like the big game, and when he comes back, he's like, got him a lawyer, like we're all set up, like we're ready to go, we're gonna get him, and I don't know, it was just like
it's legitimately like a little bit unnerving, because there was a moment where I was like, I don't actually know if you're gonna like do the happy like, well, we found like everything's good, or if there's gonna be a little bit of like, hey, he left, we gotta overcome that. Like, I was legitimately like, I don't know how this is gonna go.
And like when the sheriff
weird
goes
to say for this.
Mm-hmm. When the sheriff goes to his boss and he's like,
got a call on some illegals.
Morales. This kid's on my team.
Good. Then you know where to find him.
Sorry.
That moment really caught me off guard.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, okay.
Because that's the thing about this movie. Like, yeah, the kids are kids, but the adults are adults. like all the characters are real. They're very real.
Well, all the adults are adults. The sheriff, there were a few moments where I was like, so you're a sheriff, you're in charge of this entire town, you've got a pretty good job, and you're jealous of your old rival who's now just a soccer coach.
A good soccer coach.
A
The
good
best.
soccer coach, but at the same time, I was like, this feels like I am a chef at like this 5-star restaurant, and I'm jealous of Frankie over there, who's the line cook at the local Wendy's, because years ago we like had a drag race and I lost to him. Like it felt like I was like, I think you're fine. I think you're doing okay.
I think that comes from like when his character is introduced, and like in practically every scene he's in, he's showing off his old class ring. He's talking about how like he's on the billboard, and about how like those are his heydays and stuff. And so like he obviously is still living in the 80s or 70s or wherever it was.
Whatever time it is. It's an ambiguous time period movie.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Like it's 95. Obviously, it's like the 90s. Like it's, you know, it's modern day. It's just with this small town being the way it is, you know, this could be anywhere from the well, with the way people are dressing and stuff too.
Yeah.
The clothing really dates it in like the mid 90s. So I don't think they said it.
But it felt in a weird way to me, kind of like the Flubber remake that Disney did, or like the Absent-Minded Professor remake that they called Flubber, the Robin Williams one, where I was like, this doesn't, apart from like a few scenes that feature like very dated phones, this kind of feels like it's set in just an ambiguous time period.
Yeah, and you know,
to an appeal.
I kind of really like that for the Big Green, because with living in a small town like that, that's kind of how living in that kind of town feels. Because like, you know, I don't know, like when I was growing up, you know, you like take a snapshot of like my room, in like 2010, I think. Like I had like a PS2 and like a Super Nintendo. So like if you like look in my room, it'd be like I don't know if this is like 2001 or like, you know, 2007 or like whatever. Like small towns like that are always like 10 years behind everything else, like anyway. So like that kind of ambiguous, like I don't know what year it is kind of thing, I think fits the story very well.
And there was kind of, to get into the very out of nowhere, out of left field ending. There is a little bit about this that I really like, because I also grew up in a small town. My town, it was like, if you drive 30 minutes that way, you'll hit Williamsburg. If you drive 30 minutes that way, you'll hit Richmond. But in terms of here, there's not really anything. Like, we got some Dollar Generals, like, after I graduated high school, and things slowly started to open up, like, in my last couple years of high school. But, like, prior to that, it was, like, really nothing. So, like, there were kids that I went to high school with who, like, had no interest in sports. Like, some of the other theater kids who were like, I'm going to go to the football game, or I'm going to go to the soccer game. And I was like, why? You don't like our sports teams? You don't like their sports? And they're like, because what else am I going to do?
Right.
And even with that, even knowing the kids who didn't care for the sports, myself who really didn't care for the sports, when there was a win, when there was a like, oh, we beat that team, or we won the thing, or whatever, there was that little bit of like, I don't really give a shit, but I'm still kind of happy. And I think
I mean,
like, the ending of this is your typical sports ending where they like overcome the other team and they're like, whoa, we did it. And the sheriff has a bet with the other coach, or is it the teacher who has the bet with the other coach?
It's the teacher that has the bet.
The teacher has a bet with the other coach. We're like, oh, this is our goat mascot. If we win, you have to kiss the goat. And like, it's just,
well, because he comes to her with the whole how about a kiss, like if we win kind of thing, and she's like, how about you kiss the goat, like if we win.
That was kind of badass. That was a little bit
because
badass.
like the whole the whole movie, she's like constantly faced with like, oh, like you're a woman type deal, and the whole movie she's just like she just shuts everybody down like
I
every
think that
time.
I think that if there was some sort of a like rediscovery of this movie nowadays, it would get a lot of props for having that kind of stuff in it, because there's a lot of like the immigration subplot,
Yeah.
the fact that there are a lot of like there's a lot of different kids here who are all like hanging together. The fact that she is like constantly shutting all this really sexist talk against her down. There's a lot of
Mhm.
stuff in this movie where I'm like, you know what? Yeah, like I kind of
Mhm.
admire that you're going for this. I don't know how successful all of it is, but the fact that you're
Right.
going for it at all, like I got to give you props for
And
that.
and something like that, it's not in an an adult film where like you'd expect like well, you wouldn't expect really a sports movie to kind of have stuff, well, like I guess, but anyway,
Yeah.
it's just the fact that it's in a kids film, um specifically like a Disney kids film. I must have watched that movie 200 times or more, and like I don't know, like those subtle things that are like kind of laced into the whole, these kids winning a soccer game plot, that stuff still sticks with you. And
Yeah.
so like, it's good to have that in like a kids movie, because people say like kids aren't, kids can't like learn that stuff, they're too young for that stuff or whatever. Like, and that's all bullshit, cuz kids are way smarter than everybody people give them credit for. But because like elements of that they're gonna learn that before they even know what it is. So
Yeah.
like,
I think
I
it's
don't know.
there's something to really be said, and I think this is a great example of like when you're a kid, the stuff that you watch influences the stuff that you like and watch later on. For
Mhm.
example, like I watched a lot of Invader Zim when I was a kid, and that influenced that how nowadays I really seek out the kind of comedic horror that exists nowadays, because like nowadays I'm like, oh, I really like Tucker and Dale versus Evil and Evil Dead 2 and What We Do in the Shadows and like dark kind of comedic horror, because I watch stuff like Invader Zim. Like Invader Zim isn't really scary, but it has that sort of like dark humor, kind
Right.
of twisted horror stuff. Whereas kind of in the same way, like a lot of the film interests that you have can kind of be traced back to the like seeds that were planted because of the stuff you watched as a kid, like this, like
Mhm.
those little elements that are in Big Green, that you now are like, I really want to find a lot more movies that talk about this kind of stuff or that have these kinds of things in.
Yeah, I think I don't know, it's just really interesting to me that like I don't know, like whenever somebody says like they should leave politics out of art, like obviously they just don't know what they're talking about, because I mean
Right.
every art, not all art, but there's just so much art that's made for a political purpose. I mean,
Yeah.
or not
Like
political, just like I
99%. I think a good way to
I
describe it
hesitate to
would,
even use the word political, just because like I just feel like the like more moral elements.
yeah. Every piece of art has some sort of politics in it. Whether that was intentional or not, that's where I think it can be left up to debate. Like
Hmm.
I don't know how political the Big Green was trying to be, or that Holly was trying to be when she was making it, but
Right.
it's there. There are elements there that are inherently political just because of the subject material, whether or not it's trying to be a
Mm,
political movie.
mm.
Like Avengers Endgame is not a political movie, but there are elements within it where you can look at like, well, looking at how we were in the past and moving beyond that, and like how do we face like what seems like an like unobtainable goal, and like things like that. It's not a political movie, but those elements are there in kind of the same way like this.
Right. And that's why, I kind of hesitate to use the word political, just because like I don't know, like I think it's better that they're not, that she's not coming like full force, like, this immigration. This movie's about sexism. This movie's about, whatever.
This movie's about kids playing soccer, and these things just happen to be there as well.
Yeah.
I think we've covered pretty much all that can be covered. Maybe a little bit more than covered about this.
Really all I just want to pick this movie because it was a very I felt like once I said Uncut Gems, I was just like, all right, I feel like I kind of said that because I had nothing else to say, and like it was such an obvious pick.
You knew it was a movie you liked, and stuff like
that I could talk about and like kind of ramble on for like I'd be like, oh that scene, but like this is something that this is a movie that has stuck with me for a very, very long time, and I've been waiting for months for it to be on Disney Plus because they like had it they had it on there, but like you weren't able to watch it for a while. Watching it, years later, I kind of it's kind of nice to see. It's like, okay, so like this is why it stuck with me. This is what stuck with me. Like, like it's nice to see that like I kind of had good taste as a kid, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's a very wholesome movie. It's got pretty kick-ass characters. I mean, they're all really strong, and all the kids, like, they're just super supportive of each other. Like even when they're kind of like, clawing at each other, like still like whenever one of the kids like does something awesome, they're all like, yeah, instead of like, screw you. But and then like the adults, like, the antagonist adults are like that guy's like a super sexist, like dickhead. But then like you got like the all the other adults who are like actually like good people. They're well written, like well-rounded characters. And like, yeah, like the intros to some of them are like a little basic. It's like, like British, she's like foreign, like she doesn't know this world and stuff. Like,
yeah.
Like I think like a British person to do that. But yeah, I don't know. Like the movie's just stuck with me. I was able to relate to a lot of the small town elements as a kid, and it's nice to see that it kind of holds up, honestly.
Because in its own way.
That movie could almost be set today. I mean, honestly, because like the costumes aren't that much different than like there's nothing like super trendy. People are just wearing like t-shirts, pants, polos, stuff like that. So like it's just like modern clothing, and like the car models, they are like 90s. Maybe 80s car models, but in a small town like that, would see a lot of those. Yeah. I mean, maybe not so much now because, we're 2 decades into the 21st century.
Right.
So, but yeah, like you could watch that movie and be like, this took place, a year ago or something. Like, honestly, like it's still, it holds up because it's hard to date. Kinda, and like the elements of it and what they talk about and like the elements of the movie, like they are not in themselves dated at all. It's still topical.
Yeah. On that note, I think that we're gonna sign off. I think that's as much as
cool.
We talked about the Big Green, probably as much, if not more, than Beast talked about it. If you liked this discussion, this video, I encourage you, please subscribe, like the video, share it with other people. I will have links to your Twitter in the description. Anything else you want to shout out or throw in the description, I'll put down there as well. Also in the description will be a link to my my gaming YouTube channel that if you're interested in that, I encourage you to subscribe to as well. And yeah, we'll be back next time with, I don't know who's going to be next. I don't know what film's going to be next. That's the fun of it.
All right, cool. Thanks for having me.
No problem, dude. Thanks for talking.